Hello everyone, this is teacher Janeth, and today we have a very interesting lesson. We're going to talk about idioms for daily conversations. Idioms for daily conversations. Now, I'm going to explain to you the definition of idiom as we go along. But this lesson is very interesting and very helpful if you want to practice your English conversation skills because idioms are often used by native English speakers and the meaning is quite tricky. So it's not really the word for word translation. So that's why we have to learn some of the common idioms that native English speakers use like this one. Okay, in our first slide, under the weather. What does under the weather mean? Okay, let's proceed. Under the weather. So when we say under, it's the opposite of over, right? Or on top. It's under the weather. When we say weather, it's like sunny, rainy, snowy, okay, things like that. So, if we're going to interpret under the weather literally, word for word, so it actually means something like this, right? So, this is the weather, it's raining, and there's a man. Okay, there's a guy here under the rain. But when talking about idiom, just like what I said, it's not really the word for word translation. So it actually means feeling sick, okay? Feeling sick or not feeling well. And usually we also use this phrase here before under the weather. We say a bit under the weather. A bit, like a little, okay? A bit under the weather. Now, this is very important to learn how to understand this or how to use it because native English speakers typically use this to tell their teachers, their classmates, their bosses if they can't make it to work or to school. They would say, I'm sorry, I can't go to work today. I'm a bit under the weather. Or I'm sorry, I can't go to school or I can't attend your class. I'm a bit under the weather today. So it just basically means feeling sick. Okay, so let's dive into the definition of an idiom. So, an idiom is a commonly used expression. It's very common. And when you learn idioms too, you are kind of improving your English speaking ability. So, an idiom is a commonly used expression. So, it can be two words, it can be a sentence, it can be a phrase whose meaning does not relate to the literal meaning of its words. So it's not word for word translation, but okay, it's not the literal meaning of the words. So we have to learn how to use each one of them. Okay, so I'm dividing this group of idioms into two. So we have idioms related to food and idioms related to nature. Let's talk about idioms related to food. And these are expressions or these are phrases that have food in them. So let's start with the first one. Bring home the bacon. Bring home the bacon. So we know that bacon is a typical part of our breakfast, but we don't say you have to go to the grocery store and bring home the bacon. So the meaning is to make money in order to support your family. To make money in order to support your family, to work. Example, we are six in the family, so my dad works hard every day to bring home the bacon. So your dad works hard and makes money in order to support your family. Bring home the bacon. Number two, two peas in a pod. Two peas in a pod. So, what is a pea or what are peas? So, peas are vegetables and usually they come in circular form, and a pod is what encloses the peas. So, these um, pods are enclosed in this pod. But what is the meaning of two peas in a pod? So basically, it means two people who are considered a perfect match. What a cute couple. Okay, or they have very similar characteristics or very similar qualities or appearance. Two people who are considered a perfect match or very similar. Example: Howard and Raj are always together, like two peas in a pod. So, when you are always together with your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your best friend, usually you kind of look the same as the days go on. So people would say they're like two peas in a pod. You look almost exactly the same. Or you're a perfect match. You have almost the same qualities as one another. So two peas in a pod. Next, I really like this expression, spill the beans. Spill the beans. So the beans are what you can see here, but you don't literally open a can and then spill the contents, spill the beans. But it means to tell a secret, to tell a secret. Example: My friend Sarah told me not to spill the beans about her pregnancy, but I accidentally did to one of our friends. You accidentally told one of your friends that Sarah is pregnant, but she told you, please don't share it. Please do not spill the beans about my pregnancy. Okay? So that is spill the beans. Number four. Number four, I also kind of use this expression often to my friends or my family members. Um, Butter somebody up. Butter somebody up. So as you can see, this is a very funny illustration. You rob a block of butter to your friend's back. But the meaning of butter somebody up is to praise or please someone. When you please someone, you actually say or do nice things or nice stuff. But you do this, you praise someone because you want to get something in return. You need a favor, um, to be exact. Example: I had to butter my parents up before they agreed to buy me a car. I had to butter my parents up before they agreed to buy me a car. Maybe you say something nice to your parents, or you do household chores, or you take them to a nice restaurant, and then you actually need something from them. You want your parents to buy you a car. So you butter your parents up. Notice we don't say butter up my parents, but we say butter and then somebody before the word up. Butter my parents up, butter my friends up, butter me up. Okay? So I had to butter my parents up before they agreed to buy me a car. Okay, I hope that's understandable. Let's go to number five. Number five, take something with a grain of salt. When we say grain, we also say it's a pinch, a tiny amount or portion of salt. But what does this mean? It means to not believe or not think about something seriously. So you don't take offense. You don't take something to heart. You don't take something seriously. Example: My friends often calls me fat, but I take it with a grain of salt. You don't feel insulted, or you don't feel hurt when your friends call you fat, because you don't believe it, or you don't think about being called fat seriously. But I take it that it refers to your friends calling you fat. All right, so those are the idioms related to food. Now let's proceed to idioms related to nature. So you can find words related to nature in these idioms. The first one is, it's simply, you rock. You rock. So you rock. You're not a rock, okay? So, but it means you're awesome or you're great. When you did something nice or amazing or excellent, your friends, your parents, your colleagues can say, you rock. You're awesome. Thanks for helping me pass the exam. You rock. So maybe your friends helped you study or helped you prepare for the exam. So you can say, if your friend's name is Dan, you can say, Dan, you rock. You're awesome. Number two. Number two, I also use this often. Go with the flow. Go with the flow. What does go with the flow means? Flow, you associate flow with, it's like a stream, or like the pattern that you can see to the lakes, the rivers, just like this. This is the flow. So, what does go with the flow means? To go along with whatever happens. That's the first one. To go along with whatever happens, or to agree with what other people say or do. To agree with what other people say or do. So if they tell you something and you can't really decide, you just want to follow what somebody says or do, so you're just going with the flow. Example. Sometimes I can't decide what movie to watch with friends, so I usually go with the flow. If you can't really decide what to do and you just follow your friends, so you're going with the flow. Go with the flow. Interesting. Number three, down to earth. Down to earth. Now, there are two ways to spell it, one without a hyphen and the other one is with a hyphen. So, two hyphens. So, this is a hyphen, down to earth. So, both spellings are acceptable. Down to earth, it means, so it is an adjective that describes a person, usually. So, it means practical or human or relatable. So we usually use down to earth to describe a person who is somehow successful or someone who has achieved something, but they remain humble, or they still are very practical, or they're not too idealistic, and someone whom you can really relate to on a humanistic point of view. So we can actually use Ed Sheeran as an example. He's a very down to earth person. After watching his interview, I realized that Ed Sheeran is such a down to earth person. So he's not very, he doesn't brag too much. He's very humble. We can all relate to Ed Sheeran. He also has a humble beginning. So we can say that Ed Sheeran is a down to earth person. All right, number four. Number four, when it rains, it pours. When it rains, it pours. So this is also a good illustration, but it's not literal. But let's talk about pour first. Now, pour relates to something watery or rain. So actually, it's kind of repetitive or redundant. When it rains, it pours. It pours because when we say pour, it actually means rain. So It doesn't make sense. But when we say when it rains, it pours, it actually means bad things happen all at the same time. So, in other words, you're very unfortunate or unlucky. Bad things happen almost at the same time or all at the same time, at the same day, the same week, or at the same month. Example: last week I lost my new phone. So that's very unfortunate situation. And today I failed almost all of my exams. So maybe you have an exam in math, in English, in history, in geography, and almost all results are failed results. So I guess when it rains, it pours. So when a bad situation happens, another bad situation happens also. So when it rains, it pours. Okay, let's go to number five. Number five, the calm before the storm. The calm before the storm. So we all know what a storm is. It's, for example, it's like there's a typhoon or there's a hurricane. But the calm before, before that happens, there's actually a calm or a peace that you did or you experienced. A quiet or peaceful period, when we say period, that's time, before a chaotic moment or difficult situation. A chaotic, it's like a chaos, like a typhoon or like a busy day. Example: I'm enjoying my weekend by watching some movies and sleeping. So it's a very calm situation. Next week is the final exams week. So I'm enjoying the calm before the storm. It's very correct. You're enjoying the calm before the storm by watching movies and sleeping. Okay, so those are the five idioms related to food and five idioms related to nature. But before we go, let's have a bonus idiom, and it says, call it a day. Call it a day. So, call it a day is an expression that you use when you stop working on a project for the day, or at school when all classes are finished, or when you do a project and it's almost evening and you decide to continue doing something the following day, or to simply stop working. Example: guys, it's already 5 p.m. Let's call it a day and finish this project tomorrow. So I guess this lesson is finished. We can call it a day, but wait, we're gonna have to summarize everything so that you won't forget. So, idioms related to food, we have bring home the bacon, two peas in a pod, spill the beans, butter somebody up, take something with a grain of salt, and idioms related to nature, we have you rock, go with the flow, down to earth, when it rains, it pours, the calm before the storm. All right, so those are the 10 idioms and one bonus idiom. Let's call it a day. But before we call it a day, you have to answer. Okay, there's a quiz, 10-item quiz that you have to answer from Wiser. I'm going to also post the link so that, and it's open, and then you answer the quiz to for me to know that you definitely understood the lesson and idioms. Thank you guys for listening, and let's call it a day.